So to speak to you, this book just came out today, MIT Press, and Amazon start delivering it. So it's a nice opportunity to speak about it. And it's, I'm an artist. I work a lot with technology. I direct the Artist in Residence program at the SETI Institute. This is my 8th book of photographs. The words for this actually came first. And they came out of lucid dreaming, which I've been doing since my teens. So in a nutshell, I had a dream about 5 years ago, right after visiting St. Stephen's Cathedral in Budapest, where St. Stephen's hand and arm from 1,000 years ago is preserved in a reliquary. He committed a miracle with that arm, and that arm in that reliquary was taken back to Istanbul when Budapest was sacked, and then it came back, and the Nazis stole it and went back. So it's an object with a lot of history. I had a dream about it. And there were aspects of it that were about food, and so I did something through the lucid dreaming, which is I basically programmed my memory to go in and mine areas of memory of life that related to food. Food as metaphor, conversations over meals, and things started getting spit out. So since my mid-teens, I taught myself this method called Silva mind control. It comes out of the 60s in San Francisco. And so I keep a notepad next to bed, and I make notes. So these things, kind of like word clouds, sort of like poems, came out. And so I gathered, after 5 years, I gathered 108 of these texts, and then I went deep diving in 35 years of photo archive. I was a photojournalist and a photographer, and as an artist, I use photography a lot. And so I've paired the pictures with words. So tonight I'm going to read you some of these and then move into some other stuff. Stomach rumbling, pattern recognition, interference leads to rabbit holes, wormholes, worms, black holes, blackness, dark matter's darkness. Somebody please shine a light down here. Too much noise, too little signal, stomach rumbling. The brief lapse that was comfort, lack of discipline, caught me by surprise, stealthy, insidious malice, affluent comfort, talons into meat you might enjoy, until the surround sound arrives as the mycelium consumes you. Microbial welcome mats, time-sensitive materials, love, laughter, truth. These, for what it's worth, come out quite unedited. So sort of curious. I'm interested in mind. I'm interested in ideas about consciousness. I think consciousness is amorphous and reality, in my case, is highly malleable. And I'm going to show you some pictures related to this. This is my latest installation. It opened 2 weeks ago at the Beach Museum, Kansas State University. Kansas, of course, being the place where evolution's not taught, sort of interesting. And so this is the 4th iteration. I'm making these installations. The cases I salvaged, and I do a lot of salvaging. Some of it's on eBay, and some of it's in the salvage yards in South Silicon Valley. So I'm getting the very recent detritus from the tech industry. These cases all took replacement transfer cases to Afghanistan and Iraq for the Humvees that had been hit by roadside bombs. So they'd take a replacement part, and then the cases weren't needed. And I bought one off eBay, and I made an artwork in it. So I thought it was interesting, the idea of the art could travel and be protected. And then I found that I could buy a lot of them, and they became architectural stacked. They were made to stack on aircraft carrier decks and that kind of thing. And so then I've started using them as the architecture in my installations. These are fiber optic cables. I'm using these. Some of it's just, it's in effect nonsense as well. This is a video piece. On the right is a Mahakala, 19th century Tibetan bronze. And I'm interested in the ideas in it, but I'm also interested in conflating time as much as conflating reality. Mahakala symbolizes blackness, and inherent in that is it suggests that all colors are absorbed by the blackness of Mahakala, just like all realities become one in Mahakala. It's very interesting Tibetan iconography. So there's a video associated with it. It's actually from experiments with would-be wind balloons that I did at the Craters of the Moon National Park. So this is one of the pieces. This is a chromatography column I salvaged, so that's used in the biotech industry. One of the things it would be used for is tests with new drugs on pathogens. And I sort of repurposed it. I built an industrial UV light inside. And what you see there are some of the rarest fluorescent minerals in the world, which I collected in Greenland on this deposit where, you heard the guy in Washington, the big bloated guy, talking about buying Greenland. The reason they're interested in Greenland is because of uranium. It turns out on the outside of this deposit are these really rare fluorescent minerals. So I was actually up there collecting, which was really interesting, with a number of retired geologists. Anyway, the hoses allow the lights to breathe, and there's a sound component with this. Sounds, natural world sounds that I've recorded, but then processed, so that I'm interested in hopefully in the space eliciting this state where when we hear something and pattern recognition takes effect. So for example, we all do this. You hear something and go, that's a monkey, or that's a baby. I'm interested in that moment exactly where you do that and then you go, but it's not. So a lot of what I'm doing is processed sound. This is one of the pieces I built, which somehow brings together camera sensors on a silicon wafer and horseshoe crabs and a lava pillow. Pillow lava is a kind of lava in geology, so it's a bit of a nonsensical device. That panel is actually a 15th century painted panel from Tibet that I got from a Slovakian climber, and it's in this device that includes these horseshoe crabs that are gold-leafed. I'm interested in the horseshoe crabs because they've been on Earth 450 million years, so they're this symbol of, really true symbol of deep time. And of course, all the gold on Earth was created in stars that died before our star was born, right? Gold was created in supernovas. So there's a lot of symbolism going on in here. That's the first field station I ever worked at. My degree in university was exploration geology. That's in the Northwest Territories in Canada. I was 20, and the helicopter at the bottom right was a helicopter accident I was involved in, which was my second near-death experience. That's a whole nother topic. I went on after university to live with this shaman in Indonesia on and off for almost a decade. So, I'm interested now increasingly in the front edge of technology, but earlier in life I was spending time in these places where people were living really the way we lived with nature and evolved with nature. By the way, super intelligent guy, just totally different belief system. And recently, we were talking with Singola, talking about technology. I was there in the analog days, right, the last century. And I had a friend, a documentarian, that went there recently, and she made a video interview with my old friend. We're about the same age. And, put it up on Vimeo, passworded. I mean, a lot's changed. I used to go there with 60 rolls of Kodachrome, and the feedback loop was 2 or 3 months because I came back to Tokyo where I lived and developed film. So all that's in the background. This is the Allen Telescope Array. And so this is where SETI listens for signs of ET. I've been recording up there. And this is through my position at the SETI Institute, I got access to the D-Wave 2, so that's a quantum computer that Google and NASA run. And I recorded that computer. And as with a lot of these devices, I'm getting this access, but for me it's a way to be around these things and think about their implications, think about the philosophy that's implied around them. And then I made an audio work called The Sound of a Quantum Computer Thinking. I thought it was interesting to be around the engineers there because they say, there's a beat to the machine. And I asked about it. I tested it. It's 99 beats per minute. And I tested it, and the engineers said that's the sound of the monkey running around inside, which is pretty interesting. There's a lot of humor in these labs. So I'm gonna read and show you a couple more pictures. Cloud mycologists program neural networks sculpturally efficient, requiring little of the Anthropocene. The biomorphic frontier coagulates in mucus, storm surge, foam clouds, dumbfounded styrofoam boats, styrofoam icebergs playing in the ruins of a bubble bath world. No anger impressed like silence and howling feedback. So these pictures I had about a month before the deadline of the book, which is pretty recently. I had the whole stack of pictures matched, and I wasn't satisfied with the sort of the classic frame of the print. And through a bit of an accident one night, when I was scanning the prints I'd made, I bumped the scanner and got this interesting distortion. And then I very quickly went, and over 2 nights, I just re-scanned everything, intentionally screwing around with the prints on the scanner bed. So the pictures, the source images cover 35 years of work. And then I've printed them. And then I've scanned them, so they're digital again, and then I printed them out again. So there's all these levels of processing and interpretation, which is something conceptually I'm interested in. I also found it made the group of pictures cohesive, and I just like it aesthetically. It felt closer to some semblance, some approach to mind and memory and dreams. The other images were just too straight, so actually I found the distorted image more compelling personally, and then it's out there. Something in the receptionist's breath reminded me of tide pools. Go back for more, sea urchin. Artists have funny egos. Lawyers too. What is it? Pick and eat, reheat. Your necktie looks like a noose. Information theory, all species gravitate toward environments most conducive to their expansion. Did you say lobotomy? Risk reward, we know where you are and where you will be. That last sounds a lot like what Ola was talking about. Pet monkey, a cloud over China, Green River. That's a piece I made from a missile guidance system that I found on eBay, which Elon Musk was very interested in, but we're still talking. Tokyo. This is also Tokyo. That's a storefront in the 80s. Ideas about sushi. I see fools spanking monkeys, waking cities, a bathhouse with tiny bells, bamboo clackers, urban parakeets, golden light contemplating, my persimmon tree looking, seeing William Gibson, Yoyogi Park. Yawn peripheral visions, spin the bottle, lose your shirt. Gullible guppies herded sold dogma, look to sheep for ideas about sushi. Tsukiji terrified, as we ate, we knew, an ocean once full of fish, now empty. Roadkill, hindsight, foresight, foreskin removed from sight, tuna battles the band, eyes mercury rising. And that's clearly from Tokyo. I had a great little apartment in Tokyo for almost a decade. It was famously the place, particularly in the 80s, that William Gibson went to see the future. And Tsukiji was the great fish market where I used to go, which was really terrifying because you just imagine this giant inhaling sound, kind of scary stuff. I mean, that's dark future stuff. The beginning of a psychedelic adventure. This is one of my art pieces. I work a lot on light tables, which are in the installations. A sex toy and a countdown clock. A syringe going into a robotic arm. This is from astrobiologist Nathalie Cabrol, who's head of astrobiology at SETI. And that's me working in the world's largest wind tunnel at NASA Ames. Dispassionate universe, how do you feel today? The rainforests, the coral reefs have returned. Have you? Epic humor, compassion, too fucking funny, too many devices, forget-me-not, something else. Gender difficulties, spontaneous myths, conundrums, profit margins, hello future, goodbye, AI emotes. That's it, thanks.